Siri, how do you spell includes? Excuse me. Hey Siri, how do you spell includes?
Includes. I-N-C-L-U-D-E-S.
Hey, good morning. Let me get everybody in from the waiting room, and then we'll get started. Okay, all right, let me get everybody on here, and then we'll jump in. So the good news is that section 4 is pretty short and sweet as we wrap up the rest of World War I. So let me make sure that I'm getting everybody in as they check on this morning. So good morning, happy Thursday. I hope everybody's doing good. Again, we're going to wrap up World War I. We're going to do section 4 in your packet, section 4 IDs and SQs. And then I want to make sure nobody has any questions or concerns about your World War I project. And if we still have a few minutes, then we will look at and talk about the other 2 pages that you have in your packet, which is, one's the timeline page, and then one is the, what is the other one? I think it's a charts. I think that's what's at the front of yours. I'm trying to find my copy so that I can make sure that I'm following along with you guys as we do it. But now I can't figure out what I did with my copy. Hold on. Okay, found it. Took me a minute, but I got it. Okay. So we'll just kind of play that by ear to see if we have time to look at those couple of extra pieces. If not, after today, all that you should have left in your packet to finish up is doing, like I said, the timeline page, which is pretty short, quick, pretty self-explanatory. Looking at the new, this is focusing on new pieces of technology for World War I. And then the charts is the other. You're just doing causes and effects. Again, this is a way for you guys to kind of dive a little bit deeper yourself into your World War I information, especially since we are building up and preparing for not just a quiz, but it will also be on your combo unit test after we finish the 1920s. Alrighty, I was waiting to see if anybody else was going to join us, but I guess we'll dive into it, and if somebody does get on, then we'll get them caught back up. So again, happy Thursday. Tomorrow should be, especially for you guys, should be pretty short, quick, simple. Jump on and do your bell ringer, and if you don't finish and turn in your packet today, obviously making sure that you finish those pages and turn it in tomorrow. Again, after today, all that you should have left is doing that timeline page, maybe a couple minutes on it, and then I'll get you started on the charts and let you wrap up on it as well. So, you know, if you bust it out today, then, you know, 2 seconds tomorrow on your bell ringer, and then you can enjoy your weekends. And Monday, and I'll make sure that I put this in the Google Class stream and then through the Remind app, is that Monday is review and quiz day. And we're not doing any other stuff on Monday, just because I realized, and I promise that I did not intentionally set you up on a Monday for all the things. Because when I was looking at my calendar, I wasn't thinking about what was already due on Monday. And then I was like, oh geez, you guys are gonna like key my car or something when you look at what all Monday is. Because Monday for honors is Honors Project 2. And then it's also your World War I project. And then it's also your quiz. And I was like, oh my God. I promise. I really, really promise that I did not set up those dominoes intentionally. Because I forgot about your World War I project until like Monday morning, like halfway through the day, and didn't even realize that it was not up yet. So I say all that to say that I would definitely encourage everyone to spend extra time on Friday, since you don't have but just your bell ringer and or finishing up your packet, to go ahead and work on your World War I project, so that on Monday all you have to do is review and quiz, and make sure that you submit your honors project, depending on obviously whether your honors are standard. Okay. So sorry in advance for that. I will really try not to ever do that again. That I kind of set up the perfect storm. And like I said, it's not just the fact that they're all on the same day, it's that they're all on a Monday. And I usually try not to be that mean on a Monday, especially. So I'm sorry. I love you. I love you so much. Okay. All right. So let's get to it. You guys make sure that you don't have any questions or concerns. I am really excited that we are edging a little bit closer to actual in-person instruction once you guys jump in for either A or B day, whatever you have chosen. I got my schedule. I know who's coming when, so I just got to make sure that whenever you guys are here, we're ready to just jump into it. And I am going to hold off on midterm. We're not going to do midterm until after you guys are back with me, and we're able to do the study guide and work on it in pieces together. I'm not doing it all for you, but we're going to do pieces of it together. You're going to wrap it up. And like I said, that is a nice, cushy 100 as a test grade. So you're welcome. Please enjoy that gift. That is my gift to you, especially if you've had some test or quiz scores that haven't been great, or there's an upcoming project that you don't do so great on. So that is cushion to kind of help you out. And again, just in case, maybe you struggle on midterm, that 100 as a test grade on study guide is going to boost up that midterm grade. So regardless, it should help everybody in some way, shape, or form. Okay, so that's good news, right? Okay, so let's do it. Let's do it. Let's knock it out. Let's go to IDs, section 4. Won't take us but a couple minutes. So section 4 is kind of us transitioning back. We've been talking about being in World War I, and I'm really sorry. It's a major world war that lasts 5 years, and we walked through it in 4 days. I get that. But again, this is U.S. history, and we have to cover 150 years in only 18 weeks. So if you do like war, hopefully you've either already taken it or maybe you plan to take Mr. Trogdon's wars class if you want to go more in depth. We just don't have the time. So section 4 is us transitioning into wrapping up a war and looking at a post-war economy. 28 says, why did the end of the war lead to race riots? I kind of foreshadowed this at the beginning of the week when I talked about how women and minorities were taking over the jobs left by men. Well, guess what? When those soldiers come home, they're going to want their jobs back. So guess who's going to lose their jobs? What is it?
Women.
Yeah, so women and what's the other group? Minorities, exactly. So that is going to lead to race riots. So here's what I want you to write for your answer. Minorities lose jobs to soldiers. Minorities lose jobs to soldiers. So again, as those soldiers come back home, they're going to want their jobs back, which means, again, minorities and women. You're not going to see women riot over losing their jobs just because they kind of expected it. But African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, everybody who had gotten for most of them, better jobs during the war, are really upset that they're going to be forced, not asked, they're going to be forced to give up their job and let the soldiers take over whatever it was they had to begin with. Because a lot of them are giving up not just better jobs, but better pay with a lot of those job opportunities. So that is going to lead to a lot of race riots. All right, 29, after World War I, why were Americans suspicious of some Union leaders? Because boycotts and strikes started back up. Boycotts and strikes started back up. People thought that they just were not being very patriotic. You know, we just finished a war and you're going to start boycotting already. And well, you know, the problems never went away. That's why. The problems never went away. We still don't have a minimum wage. We still don't have workers' compensation. We still don't have benefits. You know, nothing was fixed. They stopped striking during the war because we were in a war. But now that the war is over, well, we still have those same problems. So they're going to start striking again. So people were upset that they started to strike and boycott and talk about their issues again. All right, 30, last question. 30 says, who won the election of 1920? His name is Warren G. Harding. Warren G. Harding. Some fun facts about you. Harding is considered just one of our top 10 worst presidents of all time. We've had some bad ones. This guy, he's not at the top of the list, but he is on the list. So Harding, he's going to die in office. I think they say it's either a stroke or heart attack or something. What you need? But Harding is during Prohibition. We'll talk about that, you know, a lot in the 1920s. That for a brief period of time, we are a dry nation. We get rid of alcohol. And Harding, well, just couldn't say no to a drink. So he continued to break a brand new amendment. That's not good. That's not what a president is supposed to do, right? That's pretty bad if the president of the U.S. can't even follow a new amendment. So he smoked, he drank, he gambled. He was a very interesting guy, all right? And had a scandal. And we can't ask him if he knew about the scandal because he died. So some people just kind of speculate that, you know, maybe he knew about the scandal that was happening, but we don't know for sure. Okay. All right. So I'm sorry. Long story for a short answer. So Warren G. Harding, and the second part of that is, what was his campaign slogan? Return to normalcy. Return to normalcy. He even came up with a new word, normalcy. I would like some normalcy in my life right now. Can I get an amen? So normalcy, you should be able to figure out what he's trying to say. Let's get back to how life was before the war. Okay. All right. Now, you do have 5 IDs that go with this. 31, cost of living. Just put prices of common items. Prices of common items. Cost of living, that's talking about, you know, how much is food, how much is gas, how much are clothes, you know, cost of living, how much are common items. 32, Calvin Coolidge is VP. Go ahead and put that. Vice President. He is Vice President for Harding. And obviously you should know if he's Vice President and Harding passes away, that he's about to take over as president. 33, Red Scare. We will talk more about this next week in chapter 17, but Red Scare, fear of communism. Fear of communism. Just 3 words. Fear of communism. All right, 34, Mitchell Palmer, put U.S. Senator. again, we'll kind of talk more about him next week, but U.S. Senator who is going to encourage the Red Scare. He goes on a wild witch hunt for communist spies, actually. U.S. Senator. And then 35, J. Edgar Hoover starts up the FBI, leader of the FBI. And again, a lot of those pieces we'll actually talk more about next week. Kind of ran out of time focusing on World War I stuff this week. So J. Edgar Hoover, again, leader of the FBI, starts up that division and starts investigating stories. Okay. All righty. That's it for IDs and SQs. Let's head on over to section 4 in your packet. That one's fill in the blank. So this one should be pretty quick and fast. So just follow along with me as we go through it, and we'll get this knocked out. Okay. All right. Here we go. First one says, when controls were removed from the economy, people raced to buy goods that had been rationed. We did a lot of rationing during World War I. And rationing just means that we're trying to conserve. We're trying to conserve. We're not trying to spend too much. We're not trying to use too much. Because whatever we don't spend, don't buy, don't use, we can send over to our soldiers and use for the war efforts. For number 1, the answer is rationed. All right, number 2, workers wanted to raise their wages to keep up with inflation. Inflation, that is your answer, inflation. So they wanted better pay because prices on all goods is going up. And, you know, you need more money to spend on items. So to keep up with inflation, they wanted better pay, but companies couldn't afford it. So unfortunately, wages stayed low, prices went high, and a lot of people struggled to get what they needed because of it. All right, number 3. By the time the war ended, workers were better organized and more capable of organizing strikes. That's your answer for number 3. We did see strikes happen, but it was not as much during the war, but they picked back up afterwards. So when the war ended, workers were better organized and doing strikes. Again, we're still frustrated. No set minimum wage, no benefits, no sick leave, things like that. Number 4, a general strike took place in Seattle. Just kind of an interesting thing to talk about. We don't really go in detail about it, but Seattle is your answer. A general strike took place in Seattle when other unions joined striking shipyard workers and paralyzed the city for 5 days. Number 5 talks about another strike. Number 5 says the most famous strike of 1919 took place in Boston when roughly 75% of the police force, your answer for number 5 is police force, which is always a scary situation. You know, if all hell breaks out and you don't have somebody to keep law and order, it can get kind of scary pretty fast. You know, and every time I think about not having law enforcement officers and things like that, it always makes me think of those Purge movies. That's what I envision. I envision like a purge happening and just all hell breaking loose, you know, and it's scary. But yeah, they had 75% of the police force walk off the job because they weren't getting paid anything. You know, I mean, these guys, these women and men are risking their lives on a daily basis, and they were only getting paid pennies a day. All right, number 6. After the war, returning soldiers blamed African Americans for taking their jobs. In the summer of 1919, frustration and racism erupted in violence as 25 Race riots. That's your answer. Race riots broke out across the nation. Again, we kind of talked a little bit about that frustration already, that a lot of minorities, African Americans, Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, they're all going to be frustrated that now they're being forced out of their job because these soldiers are now coming back home. I can't imagine. That would be so awful because, you know, they've gotten used to that good job and probably better pay and opportunity, and now it's gone. All right, number 7. Number 7 says the NAACP. That's number 7. NAACP surged in membership after the war when many African Americans decided to fight for their rights politically. So again, NAACP is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So their membership soared after the war because so many African Americans were being denied the right to fight politically for changes. All right, number 8 says, as strikes erupted across the United States in 1919, the fear that communist, that's your answer, communist. The fear that communists might seize power led to a nationwide panic known as the Red Scare. And if you didn't know, the reason why we're calling it the Red Scare is that we associate the color red with communism. You know, there's a lot of communist countries that use the color red in propaganda, their country's flags, mottos, and that's just, for whatever reason, that's been the color that we associate with communism. That's why we call it the Red Scare. So we're scared that, you know, Russia fell to communism. They are now, you know, they were once our ally. Now they're a communist nation. And it was kind of an irrational fear that for some reason we thought that maybe, you know, now we're going to fall to communism, you know. Now, is that a reality? No, it's not. But like I said, we're humans. We have irrational fears sometimes. And that was the case in 1919. Number 9 says most people believed bombings. There's your answer. Most people believed that the bombings that were taking place, bombings in June of 1919, suggested a conspiracy to destroy the American way of life. That's how bad these communist fears and threats were getting, that that these random bombing situations were happening, and of course, you know, it was creating panic. Number 10 says the U.S. Attorney General Mitchell Palmer established a special division within the Justice Department that eventually became known as the FBI. So there's your answer for 10. FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI. Number 11 says from the late 1919 to the spring of 1920, the government carried out raids targeting immigrants and ignoring the blank of suspects. Your answer? Civil liberties. Civil liberties. Civil liberties. And number 12, economic problems, labor unrest, racial tension combined to create a general sense of unease, and a desire for the nation to return to normalcy. So there you go. All right, we have finished. Again, everything in your packet except for your timeline. This won't take you but a couple minutes to walk through, answering questions about the new technology. And then we can look at a couple of these together if you want to take just a minute to look at your charts. This one is looking at causes and effects. And like I said, there's only 6 cause and effects. We can look at I can get you started, just because I know we're getting ready to run out of time, and hopefully you can kind of jump and take it from there. Starting with Archduke Franz Ferdinand. So the event is that he is assassinated. Now, the cause, the reason why was he assassinated? So know that, make yourself a note that the cause is the why it happened, and then the effect is like the aftermath, like what took place because of that, you know? All right, so the Archduke was assassinated because, here's what you're going to put in 1A. In 1A, you're going to put, let's see, I'm trying to think of a good way to summarize it. Civilian unrest. I don't know. How about this? Let's put frustration amongst ethnicities. I don't know that any of that sounds like a better short explanation. But civil unrest, frustration amongst different ethnicities, because it was a Serbian rebel that assassinated the Archduke, but he did it because the Austrian-Hungarian Empire was about to start taking over more colonies and taking over Serbia and Bosnia and all these surrounding countries, and they didn't want that. And so all these various ethnic groups are now starting to fight with each other. So it happened because of, or you could also put it happened because of citizens rebelling. That's another good short response. I might write that one down just because I just thought of it. Civilians rebelling. Okay, and then your effect is the start of World War I. That one's pretty quick, short, and to the point. You know, he's a member of the royal family that gets assassinated, and it leads to a world war. Leads to World War I, because again, I told you, this is really like a big family feud. Everybody has family members that they love and support, and so everybody's going to start jumping in to support their friend and ally nation, and it's just a domino effect. Once one country jumps in, they all start jumping in. So hopefully that gets you started on it, and then you can bust out those next ones. Before it cuts me off, because I know I'm limited on my time on here, any questions, comments, concerns, issues from anybody? We're good. Justin, you okay?
Yeah, I'm good.
You good? Okay. Miss Ashlyn, what about you?
I think I'm good.
Okay. All right, good deal. Well, like I said, I would definitely encourage you, if you've got time, to go ahead and wrap up things today. I would do it today. That way you've got a nice, easy Friday, going in and doing your bell ringer, making sure your packet is submitted. And I would definitely either today or tomorrow use time to work on your World War I project, and that would take away, obviously, from stuff that you'd have to do on Monday. So unless you just really like starting your week like that, but that's all on you, boo-boo. Okay, guys. All right. I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. I'll go ahead and wish you happy Friday and happy weekend. And as always, reach out to me if you need me, okay? All right, guys. Have a good one.